Welcome to the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. On this channel, we're going to be discussing all things marrying a farmer, moving to the land, and becoming integrated with a family farming operation. Whether you're moving to the farm for the first time or whether you're moving back into a family farming operation, we discuss the ins and the outs of all of it. So let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of The Ultimate Farm Wife. I'm your host, Katja Williams, and today we're talking with Emily Blackburn. Emily, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, Kat.
Emily, you have such a broad experience in the world of agriculture, but we're going to start today by talking about your background, your upbringing. So tell us a little bit about where you started and where you are now.
Yeah, well, I was actually born in Sydney, which amazes a lot of people, but I had lots of connections to rural Australia through family friends. My dad grew up in Blaney, so that was always really good. And I was a horse rider, so I would be forever getting mum and dad to take me to all of the horse shows. And my nan had a little hobby farm that we used to have our horses at in Orange. And when I was about 9, we moved to Orange on our own hobby farm. We did lots of stuff, like we tried growing potatoes, which was awfully fun kind of when you're a kid, but not so much when you kind of got into a teenager. And yeah, we had a few sheep and a few cows. So we kind of dipped our toe in the water of lots of different activities, I guess is how you would call it. But nothing can prepare you quite for marking 1,000 lambs in a weekend. That was, very fun. Now it's kind of slightly dreadful. But yeah, so that's kind of me. Grew up in Sydney, moved to Orange, had a little hobby farm, and I was just really, really lucky growing up that we had friends that were from the land and had, actual farms, I guess, and we used to join them for shearing and a few different events like that. And so I think it was always something that I dreamt of and always felt slightly out of reach.
Yeah. So after Orange, you went and did your university degree. You became a teacher. Tell us a little bit about that track and where it led you to after school.
Yeah, I didn't leave far from home to go to university in Bathurst. I loved home too much, and they were the days. I was horse riding every weekend, off to different events every weekend, and I had lots of horses off the track, and I just was so passionate about it. So I didn't really do a lot of study. I'd say I more cruised through university and used the time to become have a lot of fun with horses and drag dad around the countryside, every weekend with my sister. And yeah, when I finished university, I taught at Blaney, I did a prac at Yeovil, and I've basically taught in, rural or regional New South Wales ever since. And I've had great experiences at the schools I've taught at.
Now, when you were teaching at Blaney, you met someone very special. So tell us about how you met your husband.
Yes, I did. I met my husband, Tom. He was also a teacher at Blaney. Funnily enough, we never quite crossed paths, but he was also a horse rider, but he was a few years ahead of me, so we never crossed paths riding. But yeah, it was actually the weekend that I went to the Coona Horse Expo to watch my sister that he kind of used the opportunity at school to have a chat with me about, oh, you're at Coona, my family lived near Coona. And yeah, it kind of all came about from there. And oh goodness, the kids at the school just loved the fact that, 2 young teachers hit it off, as you can probably imagine. So I copped it there for a while. And yeah, eventually we kind of left the Orange area and moved to Dubbo.
Now, you're on a farm now. Did you, when you first moved to Dubbo, go straight to farming, or did you start in town? What did the journey look like of now having your own block?
I think lots of young people can really empathise with this. Getting into a farm is hard work. We didn't get straight into farming. We actually had a horse place just very close to Dubbo, and it was great because, it had stables and I was just able to kind of keep living out the equestrian dream. Horse riding's not as fun when you don't have stables and an arena, so it's a bit harder here. But yeah, so we had a little horse block, and then we actually started leasing a place off my mum and dad. My mum and dad haven't actually been in farming, but they do have a farm that they had leased out. And it was actually that farm that we used to go to watch the shearing and, when we were growing up, and we'd used to camp in the old farmhouse and stuff like that. So mum and dad handed that over to us to lease. And it was from there that we kind of, I don't know, in the bank's eyes, were farmers enough to trust us to give us some money to, buy just outside of Dubbo in Wongarbin.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, a few years ago, I think when we originally met, you were actually speaking at one of the Australian Women in Agriculture events in Dubbo and talking about the finances in being able to secure that and being bank ready for the bank to actually go, oh yeah, we can give these two young people who are interested in agriculture, who are educationally trained in agriculture, to give them a go. But there's a lot that goes into setting up for that, because we're not talking about a generational place. You've taken on the lease and now you've taken on the farm, and it's you and Tom doing your own thing on the farm there. So can you tell us a little bit more about that process? Because I think that's something that we don't necessarily speak much of.
It's really, really tough when you are starting afresh, because you're looking at like what's the carrying capacity of the place that you're buying, and you're trying to essentially come up with figures of how this is going to work based on something completely hypothetical. I am not mathematical, I will say that right up front, but Tom is seriously mathematical and he is very good with spreadsheets. So I would say that I'm the practical person that has all of the conversations and does all of the things, and he sits in the background on his spreadsheet making sure that it's all going to work. And I honestly don't think that we could have done it without that background work that he did. We certainly needed to lease a place and kind of have that ticked off as, they're managing a place. They've got, having sheep and cattle was a really, really big positive in the bank's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Not having that was really, really hard when we were trying to purchase before we started leasing. So I think that leasing is a really good opportunity for young farmers to be able to show that they can do this to the banks, and also a good opportunity for you to start to get your head around, what carrying capacity is and how it's kind of look. When we purchased here in Wongarbin, we hit a really, really dry time, and it was so tough because it was dry. And after we purchased, that's when interest rates just kept going up every single time the RBA met. So certainly the first kind of 12 to 24 months were really, really tough. But I think having that understanding of, what the carrying capacity is and just getting that feel for it through those really uncertain times, I think that's where there's lots of opportunity for mentoring in agriculture and, attending different events and having different opportunities where young people are able to talk to people that have been on the land for a lot longer than we have, to understand when we are putting all of those figures in our spreadsheets that we're heading in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. And I'm sure now that things feel a little bit more settled there, you're glad the 2 hard years was sort of out of the way first up.
Yes, definitely. And every single time the RBA meets and the rates come down, it just feels like a real relief. And same with every single time it rains, which, it's so hard because in Victoria at the moment and in South Australia at the moment, it is so dry. And that is what farming is. And I think kind of these conversations around how to better prepare for different climatic events as they become more severe is really, really important, and making sure that young farmers have the opportunity to have these discussions, but also look at innovation and how we're using our forecasting opportunities to make sure that we can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. For those who are listening, Emily, who are taking on their first lease block, or they've just purchased their first block, either independently from their family farming, or they've reinvested into the family farming block, and things are getting really hard and really tight, and they're getting a little overwhelmed with something that is uncharted territory for them, something that's unfamiliar. What was something that helped you with those hard times when you first took on the block and when the interest rates kept going up, that helped you stay together, helped you stay focused, and helped reinforce this is what we want to do, and we've got that carrying capacity, we've got the ability to be able to do it?
I think conversations. For me, it was conversations with our bank manager and having that really, really close relationship that pick up the phone, let them know how you're going, how you're tracking, look for other opportunities. We secured the RIC loan as well to gain the lower interest rate. So looking for what opportunities there are out there to help you out. And then outside of kind of that finance space, looking for opportunities to have conversations with others that might be experiencing the same thing, or that you can just have that backwards and forwards off. Like, we have spoken to so many people that have just given little tips around how to manage a certain situation, and those kind of little tips of people that have experienced it are just so helpful.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples of what really helped in the moment?
I think we were feeding sheep at one point and somebody just asked us the question, like, are you essentially like emotionally attached, or are you feeding these, for profit? Is this a good decision or not a good decision? And I actually attended an event in Dubbo a little bit after kind of we were in the tough situation, and there was this kind of decision making metrics that they looked at. And it was all around kind of this emotional attachment that farmers can have to their stock, which, is just, we do, and this business case. And I think that having the things in place when everything's going okay to make the decisions is the most important thing, so that you're making the right decision for the farming business. And just when you're in that kind of coping space and emotionally very kind of drawn out, you can make those tough decisions, but also the smart decisions for the business.
The Harvest Her Power Conference 2026. Whether you're a wife keeping the books, the daughter stepping into a leadership position, or the daughter-in-law finding your place in a family farming business, this one is for you. The Harvest Her Power Conference for 2026 is all about celebrating the women behind Australian farming businesses. The ones juggling the kids, the livestock, the cropping, the conversations around the kitchen table. It's a space to connect, grow, and remind yourself that your role, no matter what it is important. And no matter where you are on the journey of family farming business. You'll hear from women who've been right where you are, building strong businesses, resilient families, and communities that thrive. And yes, I'll be there too, sharing stories from the Ultimate Farm Wife community and rolling out my own workshop for the conference. So gather your friends, your sisters, and even your mother-in-laws, and make this your time to reset and refocus. The Harvest Her Power Conference for 2026 is for every woman in a family farming business who are ready to take the next step into empowerment and learning new skills. Tickets are now on sale, so grab yours and join us on February 23rd to 24th at the Taronga Western Plains Zoo here in Dubbo, New South Wales. I will see you there.
Emily, you've got 3 beautiful children now with you on farm. So tell me what that was like when everything settled down and you started having your family. How did that change your day-to-day roles? How did that change the pressure? How did that change how everything was going along? Or did they just fit in?
Maternity leave has been an incredible opportunity for me, actually, because it's given me the opportunity to be at home with the kids, and it's seen Tom working more off farm. But in this opportunity of maternity leave, it's meant that I've been able to explore my role on farm more and a little bit more independently, I guess. So instead of relying so much on Tom being like, what do I need to do next? How do I do this? And him being always there for me to ask those questions too. Sometimes I'm left in a position where I need to figure it out with 3 kids as well sometimes, it can be a little bit challenging, or sometimes by myself on grandparent days, which are always like a real savior. So I think for me, having the kids has given me the opportunity, to explore kind of what being a farmer looks like. And actually, I love it. I have said, to Tom many times, I think this is what I would choose to do for my career if I could, because I love the outside work and I love the work, especially with the animals. And it's afforded me this opportunity to be at home with the kids. And that's really important for me. But in kind of this same kind of conversation, I would never tell anyone that I was a farmer or that I was kind of at home doing work on the farm. It wasn't like out of an embarrassment, but it was out of like an imposter syndrome kind of space. And it's kind of only been probably in the last maybe 12 months or so that I have been like, oh yeah, like a lot of the time I can be the one that's doing the majority of the farm work. And if I'm writing something in my CV, then I'll put farmer and teacher, not just teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see that little bit of a change. And when you were working on down the paddock and on the farm, when it was just you, how were you moving around the block? And then how did that change with each of the kids as they came along? Did you upgrade method? Did you keep trying to use the same bike, or what did that look like?
Yeah, well, I already had Wilfred when we moved here, so that's always been a bit of a balance for me. I feel like when we first came onto the farm, it was like I was only really doing the farm things when he was being cared for. But then as I guess I've become a little bit more confident on the farm, but also as a mum, it's definitely looks like me taking the kids everywhere with me. We have side by side, which is like a lifesaver for me. And when I had Dottie, I actually had her in the carrier all of the time on the side by side, and my back almost broke. So I said to Tom, for when Olive was due, I was like, we need to get a car seat for the Gator. And that has been, I just love it so much. And I think because she was so used to just like bumping around on the Gator all the time inside me, she just sleeps the whole time in the Gator. It's a little bit squishy now, actually, now that there's 3 of them and me. But yeah, it's such a good little piece of machinery. And I think that, the kids' favourite thing is going in the Gator. Wilfred came home with a picture from school on Friday, and it was me and the Gator and him and the dam, because when we go and do dry lick runs, he always likes to get out and go and look at the dam, and he takes sticks and does fishing in the dam with sticks and stuff. So yeah, that's probably the biggest piece of machinery that's been useful for me.
Yeah, upgrading to a side-by-side was one of the best things that I did as well. So initially I would have, because my boys are only 14 months apart, I had Eddie on my back in a back carrier. I had Mac on front of me in a front carrier. And at that point we were still on bike or foot, because sometimes on some of the paddocks I just didn't feel comfortable enough being on the bike with them, which was interesting for our cattle because they're always used to us being on the bike. So when they see someone on foot, they're like, what? Whereas when I grew up and we were in Orange Hilly country with the sheep, we used to us seeing us on foot. So it was very funny to see the difference. But a side by side, especially with my 4 now, makes such a difference. Not only because you're not literally carrying the weight of that, but also because it sort of frees you up and makes them a little bit safer with all the car seats in it. Big game changer. So I love that very much. So Emily, you're on a lot of boards as well, and you're currently working with the RAS on some additional programs. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I am on the Australian Women in Ag board, and I guess for me, that was really about giving back. In 2022, I was a part of the Australian Women in Ag Lead Her program. And that, it was probably around that same time that I started to get this confidence around, shifting into agriculture a little bit more, and kind of, I guess, this identity shift almost in being able to say, like I'm on the farm and I'm working on the farm as well. But for me, Australian Women in Ag has always been about giving back to the community, and especially to all of the people that have done so much work before us. It's so incredible to be able to, call ourselves a farmer, because it was around, 1994 when I was born that women were for the first time able to identify themselves on the census as a farmer. So it's only been just over 30 years. And so I just feel so privileged through Australian Women in Ag to be able to work with the women that made that change. And they're so supportive in helping women come through and providing us the opportunity, and so open to having kids around and in the background and all of those kinds of things, which is super, super important. And through the RAS and also Ag Journey Australia, which is just a bit of a passion kind of mine, I am just trying to connect education and agriculture, and just really kind of look at how we can support kids in rural, regional and remote Australia with literacy and numeracy through hands-on learning. anyone on the farm will know that, you know, you might have certain kids that really, really struggle sitting their bums on a seat all day. My son is certainly one of them, and getting him to write his name can be really, really hard work. But if I have planted a new seed in my veggie garden and I want to write the name of it on, you know, a little stick so that I know, oh, that's where I've planted the broccoli, he will write broccoli on that stick with a permanent marker for sure. But trying to get him to write his name on a piece of paper is a battle. So I think that ag education really provides us, especially in rural, regional and remote Australia, when we have this really stark divide in our literacy and numeracy results in comparison to metropolitan Australia, it provides us this opportunity to really cater for the diverse learning needs of all of our kids and engage, you know, kids on farms and in communities with the learning that they're exposed to every day and that, you know, that they love.
Yeah, absolutely. Emily, if people are listening and they think that is my children, or that is, you know, that is exactly what I want to help support, is there a way that people can help or can reach out for help if they need that?
Yeah, I think that the first port of call is definitely starting through your school. There's learning and support in all schools, and you can kind of follow along. I have a newsletter that goes out and some different literacy and numeracy activities and things like that on my Instagram and Facebook as well. So have a look at that. It's a really exciting space, and I think that we have a lot of opportunities for our kids out here. And I think that connecting with ag not only, you know, bridges this gap of the workforce coming through that's needed for ag innovation, but also provides this engagement piece that I think we're lacking.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try and link that in the show notes below. So on top of all of that, Emily, you have time to not only have participated in the 2025 Harvest for Power conference as an attendee, but you've now jumped on the committee to help with the planning of 2026. So tell me why you decided you were going to come to the conference, and then tell me a little bit about your key takeaways.
I think that it's conferences like these that provide women in rural and regional Australia with the opportunity to connect. And I think it's the conversations that people have at these kinds of conferences that really make a difference. So one thing that I loved about the Harvest Her Power conference was the kind of smaller group of women that allowed everyone to be really open and vulnerable. And I think it's in sharing those vulnerabilities that connections happen, but also that learnings happen, especially around tougher topics like we were discussing on farm safety and things like that. So that was probably my favorite thing about the Harvest Her Power conference. And for me, you know, getting involved for 2026 is just all about, making sure that we can run events like this so that the Emily who was, you know, here a couple of years ago and just starting out didn't feel like she was alone and couldn't say that she's a farmer, but that she feels a part of this community. And no matter what your role is on farm, whether it's, you know, behind the scenes, whether it's in the paddock, whether it's book work, you know, whether it's supporting the farm business through working off farm, like whatever it is, you're welcome at these events and you're welcome in this community, and you can call yourself whatever you like. So that's probably what it is for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so grateful that you are on the committee with me this year, and we are planning a incredible 2026 program, which will be out when this goes live, and we'll even have the time frame and everything up as well with all our speakers and workshops. So check that out in the link below. Emily, what are you most looking forward to in the 2026 program?
Well, I think, again, it's all about the connections for me. Probably a standout for me for 2025 was Melinda. I absolutely loved her session. Very practical, and I really like those practical sessions that kind of make you reflect in the moment, but you kind of keep mulling over it, you know, in the gator over the next kind of week, and keep, you know, just different learnings happen over that kind of week afterwards. So definitely looking forward to hearing from Melinda again, and just really looking forward to the community at the event and everyone that I get to meet and get to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who are listening who weren't able to come to the conference this year, Melinda's topic was on values and morals and how we can align ourselves with that to be able to be comfortable in our place on farm, find out who we are first, especially if we've gone through a major identity shift, moving to the farm or changing our roles or becoming mums and our role changing. So finding out what it is that's important to us, getting confident in ourselves, and then being able to apply that to our daily life to make sure we're in alignment. And then this year for the 2026 program, Melinda will be continuing her speaking and topic to be able to cover things such as intimacy and relationships on family farms. So that's not only between, you and your husband or you and your partner, it might also be between you and the extended family. Those additional relationships will then impact, that family farming business, how that will then impact on you and your partner's on farm. But then also, you're adding kids into the farming mix, or you might be adding kids into the farming mix, and what that impact is on those relationships and on that intimacy. So it'd be really nice to see how that is implemented into other people's family farming business. The Harvest Her Power Conference is all about practical skills that are going to empower you to be able to do your day-to-day life on farm and really help support that moving onto the land, so moving into a farm and then integrating into a family farming business or back into a family farming business. If you are a daughter of a farmer and you're coming back into the business, then we want to be able to support you just as much in that role, because it's very different going from being a child to then being part of the business, and it comes with a lot of change, and particularly that relationship between your parents and yourself.
I think that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to about the conference is the breadth of women that it brings. It's not just about the wives of the farmers, it's about everyone on a farm. It's anybody that's involved in the farming business in whatever capacity. And I think that these really practical and hands-on sessions are so valuable. And, just the conversations that you can have with other people that have had different experiences with, the whole range of things that you experience on a farm. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. And in our next podcast episode, we'll be hearing from Elaine, who was another attendee at the conference. And when she was sitting down listening to one of the workshops, which I was putting together, she was saying, I do all these things in this workshop you've put together, Katja. I didn't realize I was a key component of the farm. I didn't realize I could call myself a farmer, because the way the family farm was set up is they didn't label things like that. You either were part of the farm if you were there, basically from its founding, but she just saw herself as the partner. So it was really lovely to see that come around, to be able to say, hey, yes, like Emily, I can call myself a farmer. I am part of this farm. So I'm looking forward to talking to Elaine as well. Emily, before we finish up today, can you please give your top advice to anyone who has married a farmer, moved to the land, and is integrating into or back into a family farming business?
I think probably for me, it's all about getting involved in the community to find the people that you need around you to succeed. And like for me, it's not directly being involved in, this very, very specific local community. For me, it's very much the broader national agricultural community, and especially through Australian Women in Ag, being able to touch base with all of the women that have, gone through this path. But in whatever way that it is for you, whether it's, through a national connection or whether it's a really local connection, I feel like for me, the most important thing has been meeting lots of different people, hearing lots of different experiences. Conversations are so powerful, and I think that it's the conversations that you have with people that can give you the confidence to take the next step. I certainly needed that little nudge through the Australian Women in Ag Lead Her program to be able to step into this kind of identity and this role. And now that I'm here, I feel, that I'm kind of in this place. Whereas before I, would have been too nervous to attend the Harvest Her Power conference. I guess my call would be to go to the thing, join the group, you belong there, and everyone will welcome you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And was there a piece of advice that was given to you either before you moved to the farm or after you got there that sort of has become like a mentor in your life that you refer to when you need that confidence?
Yeah, I think it's from Kathy McGowan, and it is go for it. She, is a really, really big advocate for giving it a go and making sure that you are kind of developing the right relationships to get you to the place that you want to be. So I would say go for it, just like Kathy, and kind of be your own confidence earpiece. Yeah.
Yeah, and Kathy is someone who you really want to be in your corner. She is an absolute inspiration. She has been with the Australian Women in Ag since its foundation and has been an absolute key component of being able to recognise women in agriculture. So a massive shout out to Kathy. Thank you so much for your work, as well as all the previous committee members for the Australian Women in Agriculture. Until then, guys, tickets are now open for the Harvest Her Power Conference for 2026. It is in February, so please check out the details below. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. A huge thank you goes out to our show editor, Krista Pathrath, CEO of the Rural Podcasting Network, helping rural entrepreneurs share their voice online. You can learn more about Krista and the Rural Podcasting Co. at their website in the show notes below. And to our creative powerhouse, Dakota Gorey, CEO, or as she likes to call it, the Creative Experience Officer of CGC Design. With over 5 years of experience in marketing, social media management, and website design, Dakota is passionate about helping businesses and brands of all sizes find their voice and stand out online. And Lou and her team at the Administration Agency, and of course to yourselves who tune in every week. Want to know more about her work or about Krista and how you can get involved? Make sure you're using the links in the show notes below. I'm Katja Williams, and this has been the Ultimate Farm Wife podcast. Until next time, take care, be kind, and keep showing up for your farm, your family, and yourself. I'll see you in another episode. Before you go, if you've been loving these farm life chats, I'd love for you to join me over on my other podcast too. It's called Absolutely Fabulous, where we dive into agriculture beyond the headlines and bridging the urban-rural divide. We'll deep dive into big conversations in ag, from the challenges to the highlights and what's shaping our future. It's a space where honest stories, laughter, and a good dose of farm life real talk goes on. So make sure to head to the link in the show notes, subscribe to the Absolutely Fabulous, and I'll play the intro for you now.
Hi, welcome to Absolutely Fabulous. My name is Gillian Fennell, also known as Station Mum 101. I love everything about agriculture, especially the people, and especially communicating about what makes Australian ag so special.
And I'm Katja Williams, a beef, cattle and cropping farmer, and I love all things ag, and I'm also known as the Ultimate Farm Wife. Together, we are absolutely fabulous, and we are talking all things agriculture beyond the headlines.
And we can't wait to give our opinion to you, and we hope you enjoy it.